Hello, today I will be reviewing Stephen King's Creepshow. I thought I would review some Stephen King movies for the upcoming release of Mr. Harrigan's Phone coming out next week on Netflix. Creepshow was a movie that was written of 5 short stories by Stephen King, and they were all directed by George A. Romero. George A. Romero directed the Night of the Living Dead movies and even directed another Stephen King, The Dark Half. I really like Creepshow because I love anthology movies, and this is one of those anthology movies that I love all the stories in. Um, Before the movie begins with its first story, there's an opening with Stephen King's real life son named Joe King, who later directed the movie Black Phone, which came out this year, which I liked a lot. He has a horror comic named Creepshow, and his dad finds it and throws it away, and the son puts a curse on him. And during that, the Creepshow comic unveils the short movies that are in this movie. The first one is called Father's Day. It's about a father who was killed by his daughter on Father's Day, and 7 years later, he comes back and kills the rest of his family for the revenge of his death. The second story is called The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, and it's played by Stephen King himself, who finds a meteor and gets infected by it, and he later deals with that. The third story is Something to Tide You Over, and it's about a man who finds out that his wife is cheating on him with a younger guy. So he buries them both in a tide, killing them both, and they seek their revenge from the dead on him. The fourth story is called The Crate, and this one was my favorite, about college professors that find an old crate from 150 years before, and it's a uh, murderous creature that lives in the crawl space of the basement. At the same time, one of the professors is in a terrible marriage, and he has a abusive alcoholic wife, and it later shows how he deals with the crate and his wife with that. And the last story of the movie is called They're Creeping Up on You, about this greedy businessman who nobody likes because he screws everybody over, and he's a germaphobe, and eventually there's an attack by insects with bugs and different leeches like that. Um, I guess it would be a germaphobe's worst nightmare. My final thoughts on the movie: I really liked this movie. Stephen King later went on to do another anthology movie, Cat's Eye, which I may talk about. Um, but I loved him and George A. Romero as a team. I think George A. Romero was a great director. I really loved The Dark Half and some of the Night of the Living Dead movies. I don't have many complaints about the film. I'll just say that I think that Stephen King has a lot of great ideas, but I think he always did have cheesy dialogue that was kind of like a soap opera quality. Um, Creepshow was later adapted into 2 sequels, Creepshow 2 and Creepshow 3. I have watched Creepshow 2. It was written by George A. Romero, and Creepshow 3 had no involvement from Stephen King or George A. Romero. I never saw Creepshow 3, but there is a Creepshow TV show on the streaming service Shudder. I have not yet seen it, but maybe I'll check it out one day because I always really did like the first movie. I would recommend this movie, especially for the Halloween season. The stories are cheesy. They're not very scary. They're just kind of like fun and cheesy. Sort of like the same style as Goosebumps, just done just with a little more violence than the average Goosebumps. But I would highly recommend this. Let me know if there's a Stephen King out there that you would like me to review. But I'm definitely anticipating the release of Mr. Harrigan's Phone on Netflix. Thank you for listening.